So my croeso, hello and welcome to Pacifying with Autism and Friends on the Unmasking Autism podcast feed. On this episode, I will be chatting to my friend of the episode, Lily Bunny. On a heavily teased episode, we'll be chatting all things from autism, learning difficulties, age-regression, skill-regression, to pacify use of diapers and to use of marijuana use. We will talk of what she finds as the benefits of using marijuana for herself in terms of how it can help her be relaxed, calm and help her with her anxiety and autism traits. But due to understanders, since neither of us are medical able to give medical advice, that this is totally anecdotal what we discuss, and as like with the podcast before, we've been able to discuss other positive instance of use of cannabis, and we discussed issues around addictions with the use of the drug itself. I try to give a balance and view of it myself, so as I say, nothing off discussing on this is medical advice. For more about the discussions we previously had on this podcast, discussing the use of cannabis, I recommend checking out Lydia Smith's episode of this podcast early on in the podcast feed and also on our YouTube channel. In the synopsis of this episode, you will be able to find links to some of the products that Lily Bunny has mentioned in this podcast and how you can purchase them. And if you wish to purchase some of those podcasts that Lily has mentioned, and for you hoping to get some of the visuals of this podcast, I do apologise that due to technical issues, giving you the visuals of this podcast wasn't possible, but there is an option of watching this podcast with subtitled and the captions available to you, and it will be available on a website that will be mentioned later at the end of the episode, about where you can get the transcripts of the episode. With that said, let's join Lily Bunny's conversation with myself on this. This is Pacifying and Friends with my friend Lily Bunny. Do you want to start by introducing yourself?
Me on Instagram, and I'm a autistic content creator, and I try to spread awareness as well, like everyone that has autism, born with autism. Unfortunately, because I am a woman and also a woman of color, I was pushed under the radar by all of my doctors. When I was little, I was told that my mom was told that I would grow out of my stimming habits, which were head bouncing. So I was an extreme head bouncer or head banger when I was just an infant. And that's something I've actually never grown out of. So even as a 27-year-old adult, I still head bounce every night to self regulate myself because it's something I need to do as an autistic person to regulate myself. It just helps me stay calm and in the moment and not be irrational or anything.
Can you tell me a bit more about the story of how you got diagnosed with being autistic and other neurodivergent conditions you have? So maybe from childhood to where you are now.
When I was in school, I was put on an IEP, which is for children who have some kind of learning disability, not always labeled by a doctor, but clearly there's something going on. So I was put into that category, but then I was never put through any further testing. So I stayed on the IEP through all the way through middle school into high school, and I tried to do the college and I couldn't do it. I wasn't getting support I needed or having time that I needed to finish things. I ended up not doing the whole college route and I just started going to work instead. And I followed my passion and my special interest as an autistic person. It was animals when I was younger and still is. So I went into working with farm animals, and I was working at a dairy farm milking 80 cows a night, and I was just living the dream for a little bit. It felt just being a farmer, and it was nice.
Talking about your passions and your job, and you kind of said about how being neurodivergent of having learning disabilities as a child. By the sounds of it, you was only diagnosed later on in life. So when was it that you were diagnosed as being autistic?
Yeah, so I was actually diagnosed when I was 22 years old. I ended up actually, I got really annoyed with the doctors that I had working for me on my care team, and I felt like they weren't really listening to me. And what was happening was I didn't know I had autism. So I wasn't making the connection to know where I needed the help to help myself. I ended up just taking my whole medical file and bringing it to a whole new doctor and seeing a whole new psychologist and everything. And they ended up evaluating me, and they were honestly shocked at the fact that they were so hesitant on wanting to diagnose me with it, with all of the symptoms I have and the struggles I have. So there, it was a process to get through it, and I just think it shouldn't have to be that way. People shouldn't have to struggle to get the right medical diagnoses and to be heard by the medical teams as well.
I can understand you didn't know you were autistic or you didn't suspect you were autistic. And I think by that point, until you, like the doctor said, you could be autistic, you didn't know much about what it means. So,
Mm-hmm.
what are the things that you found that you were presenting to the doctors or you noticed were different, but you know that your doctors weren't picking up on?
I struggled with and still do struggle with. Just being in school and having a learning disability was hard. And then going into the workforce with that learning disability is hard as well. So, like, I struggled a lot with reading and dyslexia and not being able to, like, process the letters and be able to see them and understand them. So that followed me into the workplace. And because of that, I'm also not a good speller. So
Yeah.
I struggle with spelling as well. And I struggle with people telling me that, like, I'm illiterate and, like, I shouldn't be writing because I have spelling errors and, like, I write mistakes. And it's just okay, but that doesn't mean that my work isn't worth being written. And, like, just growing up as a kid too, with just my family and my siblings, was hard because I had a lot of shutdowns. I'd have a lot of breakdowns. I remember where I'd have to go to my room and just be left alone and curl up under my blanket and be in the dark for a little bit. And that was something my family didn't understand and still sometimes doesn't understand. And I don't know if it's them in not wanting to understand it, or just like trying to brush it off and be like, oh, it's not actually like autism, you're fine. So I deal with.
So, I guess you find that you still don't feel like you've been wholly accepted as by your family as being autistic, and you still have that struggle with being understood by your family.
I think a lot of it for my family, it's cultural based. So if you have any kind of problem when it comes to certain cultures, that's seen as wrong and it's seen as bad and or evil. So like growing up, I was also labeled as that. Like I would try to go to church with my siblings, and I would have fainting spills, and because I had fainting spills in church, that meant I was evil or there was a devil in me. And like they just twisted all of the things around to fit the narratives they needed it to fit instead of what was really going on and what I was really struggling with. So I grew up with a lot of that. and I'm still working through a lot of it. As you can hear in my voice, I still get a little shaky talking about it.
Yeah, I can tell that because you're a bit nervous coming on this because, like, I can understand that anxiety, especially when it's something that you probably don't tend to talk to many people about. Because, like, I know, like, something like when I was a child, I had some therapy and tried, like, anything that was worrying me or I never like to start or get out of my system. And I can understand on social media you said about having CPTSD and that anxiety. So I can imagine it's difficult trying to, even if it's not like trauma dumping itself, but like even just like touching on the areas where it might be trauma related or anything to do
Yeah.
with that.
I'm still working forward to better myself. I'm working forward to help educate my family because I know it's not easy for them. I know that they're also struggling with it. It's a constant up and down, back and forth until we find the right medium that we all fit in.
The things that you want to be able to better yourself at, or what are things that you feel that you want to be able to educate your family about, or learning disabilities?
Yeah, so with my family, it's hard because I do have siblings who also have different neurodivergences. So I have a brother, he's got ADHD. Personally, I think all three of my brothers might have ADHD. They're all very hyper, but that could also just be like my over hypersensitivity too as an autistic person. So like I
Yeah.
try to recognize that as well. But yeah, with growing up with my siblings, I wish they would just sit and listen. I think it's hard for them to just sit down for a second and just be still and listen. It's hard. And then like they're also your siblings too. So like you've got like some people have strange sibling dynamics and it's just like how you grew up with each other. So it's just working through all of that and understand that we're all growing from what we all grew up in together, and we need to understand that just because we grew up in the same home doesn't always mean we experienced the same thing too.
Yeah, because yeah, because I was just saying that like your brothers have ADHD. It's like they wouldn't understand your experiences as being autistic because it's not something that they have, and you got CPTSD, and it might not be something that they relate to and understand, and cause different school experiences, and sometimes even living under the same roof, you'd be surprised of like how much you might not know or talk about with like your siblings and parents, because sometimes when you're like teenagers you don't really want to be talking to your family about everything and teenage struggles. And I suppose probably is a bit difficult now you're 27 and I suppose brothers maybe at similar ages, and there's probably not as much time you get to chat to each other's family because you've probably got your own things going on, and it's hard then to get your like kind of family community and family environment around to talk about it. What was it like when you got diagnosed? What did that moment mean to you?
Diagnosed with autism, I was actually really surprised because I have two cousins who are also autistic, and one of them is nonverbal. So I grew up seeing my nonverbal cousins and just assuming, well, just one of them is nonverbal, the other one is actually pretty articulate. I saw their struggles and assumed because I was young that's what autism was
Yeah,
um, growing up, because it wasn't really explained to me that it was like a neurodivergency, that it wasn't a problem. And growing up, it was labeled as a problem in my family. And that's unfortunately due to the religious beliefs that some hold. Um, so when I was diagnosed, I was just really shocked because I had those two cousins who were diagnosed, and I was like, yeah, just shocked that they had gotten their diagnosis so young and had a lot of the same struggles that I did too. And yeah, how I just got kind of tucked under the bus by it was really surprising and really crazy to me. And then seeing the community of people who that's happened to has been just very eye-opening on a lot of
Yeah,
topics that I was not aware of before.
yeah. And what was like learning about certain things about yourself, and what did you start learning and exploring within yourself?
Yeah, so I've learned what a lot of my triggers are and things that set me off. And with that, I'm still working on controlling letting the trigger emotionally attack me, I guess is how I would word it. Because I know what my triggers are and I don't want them to get the best of me.
Yeah,
And I like to try and keep things calm, but I know that I struggle as well when things get emotional, and talking with siblings that doesn't always work. So was within working with myself and just learning my triggers and learning what things set me off and how I react to my triggers can also make people think otherwise of my situations as well. I've learned like you can't get your point across if you're too loud is one thing my
yeah,
family's that's one thing my family's really drilled at me is if you're yelling we cannot understand you. And I'm like, you're right. That's completely fair. That's
yeah,
completely fair. Getting loud is something I'm really trying to work on and just not letting my triggers make me get to that point, and just understanding that I need to give myself the time to process the trigger internally and not let it affect me continually within my life.
yeah. And I guess that information, understanding what essentially those type of things, to understand what can help you with your own health and manage your own anxieties and your sensory issues, and managing to understand what environmentally kind of causes those sensory overloads and stuff like that. And I know one thing we wanted to talk about on this podcast is your age regression. What is your age regression story, and how did that begin for you?
So, with my age regression, and I don't know if this is entirely linked to the autism as well, but I started age regressing very young, I guess I would say. Like I would get picked on. I remember when I graduated high school, I would not realize I would be like baby talking and not realize I would be like saying things like funny or like doing things when I was in like super stressful or uncomfortable situations. So that's something I've been learning and working on understanding as well as the skill regression that comes along with the age regression, which has been difficult. But it's all just a learning process of self love and self care, I feel like.
Yeah, so what would you say, like, in a full picture of your age regression, what does that look like for you?
Most of my age regression comes from when I'm in super stressful or put in like a situation where I get super anxious, or if I know I'm going to be going into a situation that could be super stressful and cause me to be super anxious. So it can even happen before I even go to an event. If I know I'm going to an event and something might happen there, I'll start regressing. I'll get nonverbal and I'll just confine into myself and just, I don't know, I guess be a person, but like not it's almost like I guess yeah, I just like confine into myself and I'll, yeah, just be that and not really pay attention to what's happening around me. I'll just be like in my trying to process what I'm going through and like trying to get through it and get back to whatever the reality is that I'm trying to be in.
Yeah. And I guess that is like what like they describe as involuntary regression, age regression. That isn't self-triggered, it's triggered and I can't control. Do you like experience like voluntary age regression, or like some like age regression like that you choose to explore? And
What got me into the whole little space was actually just being a, not to be TMI, but a female and having a monthly, I looked into the little comforts, and as soon as I saw that little comfort page, I was kind of like, oh, this fits. And I was like, oh, this stuff's just really cute and really fun. And I really just clicked with everything. And it all just felt really natural and safe. And I think a lot of it has helped me heal too within my regression and understanding that just because I'm an adult doesn't mean I have to be like this hard, strong person that isn't in any way soft when I am.
Yeah,
Oh,
I know what I mean. Not having to do a very adult to do thing, but do things in a way that you know that is within your choice and what you feel is comfortable or what you feel is best for you and what you feel is natural rather than something that you feel that you're doing just because adults do them. But it's within your choice to explore that side of yourself. And so, what was like your first experience of coming across things online to do with age regression? And when did you start to hear the term? And as you said, with vortex.
I think what first I saw was one of, I think it's Kiddens. She's a bigger creator for more of the ABDL side of things,
Yeah,
but just like the cute aesthetic really grabbed my attention. Just like the pink and the pastels and everything really drew me in. So I kind of skimmed through her page a little bit, and then like I would look like see who the followers are and see other people and other creators, and I would just learn from watching TikToks or going to Instagram and following people and seeing their posts and seeing just the whole community all together.
yeah. So I guess it's just some. Is it something like you would say you randomly stumbled across? You like found out about these things, or is it something that you kind of had the idea of this is something that maybe went to yeah, is it just when something that you realise you want to explore or such, and if you get what I mean, or do you
Yeah,
need me to rephrase it?
yeah. So you're like asking what got me into exploring it and finding
Yeah,
things. When I went through Kitten's page, I was like, okay, I'm gonna try and make a little page and see what I could do and see what the community is all about because it really just fit for everything that I was going through at the time of when I first got my diagnosis. Because when I found, it was almost like when I found Kitten's page and I got my diagnosis at the same time, and then seeing some of her growth that she's been through and some of her posts really helped me understand a lot of what I was going through as well as an autistic person, and just seeing how big the community was and how many people there were because again I was so just cut off from a lot of the world.
mm,
Like there was so much about autism I didn't know, and not just autism, but like the entire disability world. There was so much that just wasn't put into my eyes growing up when I was a kid because it was labeled as a problem. So it was just brushed over, but it's not a problem. There's nothing wrong with people. They're just a lot of it when I was diagnosed was just I had a lot of strange habits I would do, and I realized a lot of them were related to stimming and being overwhelmed. So I found that very interesting within myself with growing and learning about autism. I also connected really well with my cousins because I actually hadn't talked to them in a long time. I hadn't talked to a lot of my family in a long time, but I had reached out to my cousins who have autism, and he's actually helped me a lot too, just with growing and learning and finding that it's okay to be myself and that even if other family members don't quite understand you, that's okay as long as you understand you.
Yeah. And what would you say those strange habits were that just after your diagnosis, the stimming things?
Yeah, a lot of my habits. So I realized even in the car when I'm listening to music, I'll do a lot of just repetitive head shaking. And that was actually a new stim that came out because I was just learning to be comfortable with myself and being okay with myself. So it's even to the point of where I'm learning to openly stim around people. So whether that's my head shaking, my head bouncing, sometimes I do hand movements as well, or finger waves. I do a lot of the finger waves. So just having those little habits and knowing that it's safe to have those habits and that my habits aren't actually hurting anybody. There's no actual problem here. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Um,
because as long as it's safe and not harming yourself and not causing you
yeah,
any pain, then it's
exactly.
often okay. And so in our party estimate, use the pacifier as comfort
Mhm.
item to come about.
So the pacifier actually came about because I was actually I was trying to stop biting my nails and I had successfully stopped the habit of biting my nails, except that habit had turned into then biting my cheeks and my tongue. And so the stim of chewing on my nails didn't really go away, it just transferred into something different. And I was like, this isn't going to work because this is even worse than nail biting, biting the insides of my cheeks. So then
Yeah,
the pacifier came along and I found that and I was like, this is definitely a lot better. And for a long time, I was relying on candies and not realizing that I was constantly having lollipops and like popsicles. And I remember I would get the big containers of popsicles and I'd go through an entire one in 3 days because
and
just
I guess
the
it's yeah, and I guess it's because you probably saw other people who were like age
Mhm.
regressors and ABTL, and you thought us a pacifier as a solution. And even though I suppose many other people would use like a jewelry or any stuff like that. And I guess for people, like they might not understand how a pacifier can be comforting them. And so, like, how did that feel like as well when you like explored that? And also, it's still quite stigmatized as well.
So a lot of the reason like I went towards the pacifiers was because of the cheek biting and because the cheek biting for me was not it was not good. I was hurting the insides of my cheeks. So I needed to do something and I had saw the community with the pacifiers. So I ended up getting one and it helped. And so I found that I would just use it at home while I'm at home, just doing dishes or doing folding laundry, just to keep like me occupied as having almost like a stim. So it's
Yeah,
almost like an oral stim. So I'd use the passy for that instead of taking it out on my nails or my cheeks or my tongue or my lips.
yeah.
So that really helped me get through. As for the stigma around them, I think it's a little much. I think if somebody needs something to help them that like I said isn't candy because any adult could pick up a lollipop or have a piece of gum and I did that. I did gum, I did lollipops, I did popsicles just to try to get that stim that I needed and that's not good on your teeth. So, like in the long run, even if you're just relying on the lollipops and candies and trying to do it that way, that's even hurting yourself in the long run because
Yeah.
your teeth are being affected and it's not or if you just had a passy or something to just chew on for a little bit that isn't sugary sweets.
Do you find that you have experienced some of the stigma that you talked about yourself?
Yes. Yeah, no, I definitely have, I think, experienced a lot of the things that come along with using a pacifier. And my family doesn't know I use a pacifier yet because I know it'll be a whole situation that
Yeah,
they're just unfortunately not ready to understand. And that's fine. That's on their own time.
yeah,
That's not going to stop me from doing what I need to do to help
yeah.
myself.
So is it something that one day you hope to be a bit more confident about using when in more public situations or within your own family?
Absolutely sure of what other people might think of me. Growing up, a lot of myself, I tried to perfect myself off of what other people said I had to be. And now that I'm adult, I know I don't have to do that. And I could just do what I need to do to heal myself. And that can be that.
What do you find are there like when you're like in public or sometimes around your family and what do you find are the things that you still use or still do to avoid like certain biting habits and biting your cheeks and stuff like that?
I'm sure throughout the video you've seen me chewing on my lips, but yeah, I do a lot of the lip chewing when I'm around my family, a lot of the leg bouncing, and I do a lot of the hiding, hiding away. I don't know if anyone else does this, but I'm at big group gatherings, like a big birthday with all my family, and everyone's in the living room and they're all having a great time, and it's great, but I'm gonna be hiding in the kitchen where it's a lot quieter and I'm by myself. And that's not me not having a
Yeah,
good time. That's just me taking
regulating
a
yourself really,
minute
yeah.
to, yeah, exactly. And even that I've had to explain to my family members because they've gotten mad at me for just getting up and
Yeah,
walking away and not saying anything. And I'm like, I'm not leaving the party. I'm
just
not like, it's just me just taking a walk for a
yeah,
second.
just doing your best to avoid needing to actually leave the environment because if you take a bit of time out, then it can help you stay a lot longer because it's that thing that we expose yourself to something, as you say, you get that burnout, you get the shutdowns and the negative stimming when like you might end up biting your cheeks a lot more and
Mm-hmm.
causing injuries to your cheeks and stuff like that. And one of
Mm-hmm.
the questions that listed down is to understand within the age-regression and ABTL community where there's common smoking. So what do you find that smoking weed or marijuana, does that help you with your own trauma or does it help you with your autism traits and stuff like that?
So for me, it definitely helps. And it's a constant battle that I also have with myself on my cannabis use because it's another thing that was drilled into me growing up is you're not supposed to smoke. And so knowing that I'm smoking and the feeling I get of just knowing I'm okay after I smoke because I could be in a really just bad state of mind and I can if I take just a little hit of my weed, then it just completely changes my whole chemical imbalance in my head. It clears the fog away. Like when you get really anxious and you're really just like in yourself and you're afraid and you're scared. For me, I get like that a lot. That's another reason why I go by Lily Bunny because bunnies are skittish. Smoking weed for me helps with that. It helps me just calm down and be in the moment and be able to experience things like other people are experiencing them and not have it to be so overwhelming and stressful.
I guess it's the sort of thing that we can find your brain getting overloaded and it slows that down and does have a positive impact for trauma healing and all your autism traits. But it's another thing that it's quite stigmatized.
Yeah, it is very stigmatized. And growing up, I was told to never smoke. I had cousins that got in trouble, big trouble for smoking weed. Back in the day, it was a big problem. It wasn't legalized, it was illegal. People were getting arrested. That was what I grew up with for weed. Just that and knowing it had that stigma around it. And knowing how much it helps me is crazy to think about because there's so much bad stigma around marijuana, and it's just, I don't know, I feel like an unrealistic fear that people have of it because they understand it.
And again, you've worked out a way of using it for your own benefit because it's something that we might not work for everyone, and it's like something
Yeah.
that some people may overuse it or have negative effects on it. It
Mhm.
works different as for everyone, and it can have, as I said, positive and negative effects. And so, as say, for what some people need to understand is that, like for certain people, there are medical uses of it, or and that can
Mhm.
have good psychological effects from it.
Mhm.
Because here in UK, it's still legalized, but something that I do believe strongly it should be just decriminalized, and that
Mhm.
yeah, especially if it helps you
It's
and calms you.
yeah. And I think we're getting there with all of with a lot of places starting to legalize it. I think a lot more education is coming out about it. A lot more science-based things are coming out about it. Where before I felt like it was almost like the government took the idea of weed and was like, this is the worst thing in the whole world when it could be helping people and they just didn't realize. They just weren't willing to put in the work at the time.
Yeah, that's something that can be like safely regress as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Even with smoking my weed, it helps me with when I get into, if I get into like involuntary regress states, smoking my weed can actually help pull me out of that and even bring me back from that. So it definitely really is something that helps for me. I know it doesn't work for everybody, and it is a drug, and that's why, because not all drugs work for everybody. Everybody's different, everyone has a different effect, and I think a lot of it is people just don't do research into it and just have an uneducated fear of the plant based off the past.
Yeah, because no, we're like probably on your Instagram or your TikTok or whatever, something that can like you end up give an example of what that maybe talking your progression looks like, as well as when you like it on your Instagram and social media, like I seen with like videos that you also show off what many me know about baby talking about what it looks like for you.
Yeah, so my regression for me, when it's involuntary, I get very nonverbal. Like I can't process what's happening around me. And I can actually, sometimes I actually fall into a place of, I even almost forget where I am. And that can be very scary as well. And I was actually told that could be related to the complex PTSD that I have, causing me to go into a state of just like numb almost. But yeah, I've been so involuntary. I get very just like inside of myself. And I feel like a lot of it is, what's the word? I like to use, oh, unrealistic fears
Yeah.
is what I tell myself when I get in those states because that's really what it is. I get into these states of unrealistic fears and they're all around me and I can't get away from it. So I'll shut down. And then when I'm just voluntary regressing because I just want to do some self care and be me for a bit, that is really based off of more of just who I was as a little girl and who I wanted to be and just being me and being okay with myself and knowing that having my stuffies and having my dolls, it doesn't make me a child. I'm still an adult.
Yeah, but it gives you that
So,
escapism, and like it's just what's naturally
yeah.
comfort of you. And autistic people are like talk about having focused or special interests, and that comfort, it's like hobby or interest, but it's like something just
Yeah.
that brings you joy in life.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And like I said, I do try to base it off of what I was as a child. And a lot of it is trying to just dig down into myself and open her back up and let her know that it's okay and I'm okay and the past is the past and the future is growing and go up from here. You can't go backwards. You can't go back in time. I'm not going to get any younger. So I might as well open myself back up to my little self and help her heal from the things that did happen to her when she was younger and the struggles she had when she was younger. Because I had a lot of them, so it was hard. Even with my siblings and cousins, just playing. Like I couldn't understand playing games, and I'd need to have rules, and I'd need to understand everything,
I
and
guess
I'd
a
get
lot of
mad at other.
information to process.
Yeah, exactly. I'd need the whole storyline and a whole plot, and they were
Yeah,
just like, and they were just kids, and they're just like, we're just trying to play. So it was a process growing up, but now I'm grown up and I'm just working on caring for myself and my needs and the people
yeah.
around me.
I understand to part regression that you do use diapers as well. So can you tell me about what was like using them for you and what you reasons for wearing them?
For me, my diaper wear for me is it's like a safety net almost. I just feel safe and comfortable in them. They I don't use disposables. I use the little comforts reusable cloth because actually growing up when I was little, I had a whole thing about being eco-friendly,
Yeah,
and so that's why I got the little comforts because I was like, I'm gonna continue that and be eco-friendly. So yeah, they're just like another comfort item for me that just clicked, and it was a cute aesthetic, and they're really soft and comfortable, and they work really well. I specifically use mine for my monthly as I'm a woman, and so I and they work greatest thing I've ever had as a woman. It's definitely been life changing adding the diapers to your life. I would almost recommend them to probably every woman I know for their monthly because I'm like, this has been a lifesaver. There's a lot of struggles that could come with that as well, with being a woman.
yeah, and I guess it's as well it provides like sensory comfort because
Yeah.
for some autistic people, I don't know whether that it's like a scene that like scene for you or something. Like it can be quite a hard thing to recognize the need to go to the toilet and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that.
Yeah. So if I'm leaving my house, I will, if I'm going grocery shopping or really doing any kind of shopping by myself, I do usually wear, sorry about my rooster, I will wear when I'm out. And that's because of I'll have the skill regression sometimes when I'm out in public, and that does happen. And I have had accidents while I'm at work, while I'm in the grocery store. And so that happened enough to where I was like, I'm not doing this again. So now I just pad up for safety, and it just, it works. It keeps me feeling comfortable, makes me not have to go through any embarrassment.
What would you say is the difference between skill regression and age regression?
For me, my age regression is more of the voluntary, like going to play with my toys and healing that inner girl, where the skill regression more of comes up when if I get super anxious or stressed out, along with the nonverbal. So I've forgotten while I'm cooking, I've forgotten how to cook, I've forgotten how to do just like basic things sometimes. And I'll look around and I'm like, why haven't I done that? It takes 2 seconds. All I gotta do is fold the clothes and you'll be fine. And sometimes with the skill regression, it's like I can't even get myself to get there. And it's not that I don't want to do it. It's like I'll pick up the clothes and be like, I'll just throw them in piles and sort them. And that's as far as I'll get. I won't get to the actual folding, and it just gets to the sorting of piles, and then that's enough for me.
It's like sometimes anyway, sometimes can take a lot of energy out of doing tasks. It might not be like from chronic illness thing, but wherever you have, but it's just like something that I think sometimes simple tasks can be brilliant to people, and it's like trying to motivate yourself to do it, and you need to do something, and it's just there's not like a little light bulb in your head.
Yeah,
Sometimes there isn't something to clicking on to do it, and move you on to that
yeah.
next task, so you can see something, and you don't really think to do it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think to get to the next step of what's going on. So it could be difficult sometimes, but I am working through it. It's something I'm working on. It's a process. It's one of the reasons that I don't drive. I don't have my license because one of my fears is that I'll forget how to drive while I'm driving. But that's something I'm working on. I'm working on finding a class. Hopefully, I can find an adult class to help me learn to drive and not have those fears. So,
Yeah, and it's one thing myself I haven't learned how to drive, or I think because like I'm dyspraxic myself, and it's like that is think that makes means like it's difficult to do things, and like practical tasks can be difficult, and kind
yeah,
of like it's kind of thought to be like bit like clumsy ways and well, and so it's so things like that, like post coordination and stuff like that, it can be really, really difficult for myself. It's still
hmm,
never really managed to learn how to tie
yeah,
shoelaces. So I just think a lot of big instructions might be simple for somebody. Like it, it's like you overload, or like your brain
hmm,
doesn't work for those loads of instructions. So I guess it's just a worry about like your brain just not computing it and all that, I guess. So
yeah, exactly. It's almost there's like a short circuit happening in my brain.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. I can relate to that. Robert, like from like your little space collection, like how many like pacifiers have you collected?
I've actually got quite a collection. A lot of my passies I have are from Bubblegum Bankies. She's a custom artist, and yeah, I've got a bunch of different ones with all little. This is a Spirited Away one I got from her because Spirited Away is one of my favorite movies. So, yeah, and like even that, just being able to not just have just like a plain pass, but
Yeah,
being able to have something that's decorated and soft and just authentically itself is really nice too. I do enjoy that. I do enjoy the collecting of the passies. I've got quite a few
yeah.
different ones. But yeah, I usually try to cycle through them and I try to keep them on display in my little room. But yeah, I've got quite a few of them, and most of them, like I said, are from Bubblegum Binkies. And I just, her shop is so cute too. So
What
it's
would you
just
say?
really
What would
fun.
you say is your favorite?
My favorite pacifier, I would probably have to say, is the Spirited Away one because it's super soft. And I never thought of the idea of having a passy that had the fuzzies on it. So I
Yeah,
thought that was really unique and cute. So yeah, I really like this one. It's got all the little characters and soot people. So yeah, this one's definitely my favorite out of my collection. My go-to is usually my big purple one that everybody knows me for having usually.
oh,
Yeah.
that's personally a
So
favorite of mine.
yeah, this is one of my favorites as well. I definitely want to get another one of these ones. So yeah, I notice I do the larger ones
Yeah,
um,
same.
over the smaller ones. The smaller ones are more of my little decorative ones, where the larger ones are like my main use
Right
passies.
fit.
Yeah, they're just fun little collectibles, and I think they're really cute. They fit my little aesthetic, and I just think they're really fun and
Yeah,
creative.
this is something that can be quite comforting to use at bedtime as well.
Absolutely.
How did you work out from learning about age regression that you weren't ABDL or
Yeah, so for me, I actually struggled with the ABDL and the age regression because at first I didn't understand the two, until I had somebody really help explain it to me. And then I realized I related more to the age regression side because my regression isn't, it's most of it's involuntary and it happens when I'm really stressed out. So it's not an ABDL situation or a dynamic. I feel like
Yeah.
ABDL is more dynamic based, where age regression is mental health and learning about yourself.
Yeah, I get that. One of the things I went to the chat about is like your pets and love of animals. Do you want to say a bit about that?
Yeah, I have a pet family and they're really great. They've helped me through a lot. I, as an autistic person, struggle with loneliness, as a lot of us do, unfortunately.
Yeah, get
So,
that.
yeah, having my pets, actually, I've got my dog. He's right here. He's
Oh,
sleeping.
beautiful.
He's a big guy. He's sleeping here. And they are like the light of my life, every single one of them. They just,
Ma-
that
How many pets?
I've got like a mini petting zoo.
Yeah.
I've got 3 rabbits, chickens, 2 dogs, a cat, a chinchilla, and an umbrella cockatoo.
Birds, yeah.
It keeps me in my routine, and honestly, it's one of the best things for me. It
Yeah,
it keeps me in the routine. It doesn't let me get stuck in my bed and get bedridden because I have to get
yeah.
up. I've got to feed everybody. I gotta take people outside. I gotta give everybody their cuddles. So
No.
it really helps me when I'm like in tough places. It really helps me just pull through and get through everything. All
Massive thank you again for Lily Bunny for being my friend on this episode of the podcast Pacifying and Friends. Please take time to follow her on social media. Her Instagram is found in a synopsis of this episode. As I said, please take time to follow them on Instagram. Whilst you're there, you're going to take time to follow my account on Instagram, as well as other social media sites as TikTok, YouTube. On YouTube channels where you can find the videos of this podcast. You can find us on those social media platforms at Unmasking Autism. So that is UNMASKINGAUTIOAURI. Well, loads of letters, I know, but that is how it's spelled, and it will be in the podcast the synopsis for how you can follow on social media, that is. And you can also follow on Blue Sky at New Rainbow Project, newrainbowproject.com. Thank you for listening, and I will recommend you to also remember when you're on YouTube to like, subscribe, and share, and get other people to follow this channel. Thank you for listening. Goodbye for now, and please stay tuned for further updates about new episodes of this podcast. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Bye bye.